Guys, I gave this knife a second chance. I'm kind of glad I did. I didn't change all of my opinions about it. They were pretty negative to begin with, but it's still kind of negative. So let's turn this around and take a look at the CJRB Prado again.
All right, guys, like I said in the intro, this is the CJRB Prado. And it's a Ray Laconico design. It's a great knife. This is pretty much going to be its final review because I did give it a second chance. I'm still not in love with this knife. It's definitely not one of my favorite CJRBs. So this thing is a Ray Laconico design. It's not a bad knife at all. It's got a really, really great design. AR RPM 9, it's clip point G10. It's going to be one of those knives that's just probably not going to be something I ever take a shine to. So let's go ahead. We're going to do some boring stuff first. We got to do some specs. We got to do some size comparison. Then we'll get into the full review. And I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't hard use and carry this knife because I just was not a fan of it. So before we do that, I would like to let you guys know this channel is fully self-sponsored. There's links and affiliate links and stuff down below. And the best thing you do for a channel is thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. So let's go ahead and get into the specs. So what are we looking at here? This is a 3.76 inch blade. Now it's done in AR RPM 9. This is the satin and black G10 version. There's a couple different versions of this knife. You see it's an AR RPM 9 steel. It is a Laconico design. It's done in a clip point that is not an unattractive clip point. It's not a real drastic clip on this knife like some others. It is an aperture only opener with a cross bar lock. So technically you can just flick it open like that. You're looking at a overall length of 8.49 inches. So about just at 8.5 inches. It's not a small knife. G10 handles on this with steel liners that have had a ton of weight reduction. I honestly didn't think this had liners in it when I first picked it up. The pivot assembly is a ceramic ball bearing set of bearings on it with just your simple pivot screw that goes through, pivot screw. So it is running on ceramics. It does have a deep carry pocket clip that is reversible. And your overall weight on this, a surprising, for an 8.5 inch knife, a surprising 3.42 ounces. So it's only 97 grams. For those of you that can't fraction, you know, we use freedom units here. So let's go ahead and we're going to talk about the knife a little bit, how I carried it, and the good things about it, and then the things that I didn't like. So now I've carried this knife a good bit, and I mean a lot. It's been here for a while. This did come as a gift from one of my paying members when he sent some stuff in for review. He's like, hey, this is for the channel. So I didn't buy this knife. So therefore, I'm much less inclined to be biased. I'm much more inclined to be biased on a knife that I do buy. So you're looking at a very nicely shaped blade done with a clip point. Like I said, this is the satin version, and it has got a very nice behind the edge. This knife does cut very, very well. Nice behind the edge thickness on this. The satin has held up. I did a good bit of cutting with it on some light stuff, but I didn't heavy use carry. You can see it's been carried a bit. But I had some problems with the knife. The action on it is really good if you use the axis lock and just disengage it and flip it like that. Just like any of the axis locks, you can do that, the crossbar locks. It slow rolls very, very nicely. It's got a aperture that really does lend itself to that. And the action on it lends itself to that. It's not too stiff. Now you can reverse flick off of it. And you've got really good in-hand weight. It's got about that perfect weight I like. Since they did so much weight reduction in this, you've got this really nicely done. I like a neutral balance just at about the pivot. It could have been a little more tip forward on a larger knife like this for me, and it would have been great. G10 handles, really good purchase on this. You've got very, very good grip on this because the G10 is fairly aggressive. You can see fairly aggressive patterning on that. Pocket clip sits nice in the pocket, nice and deep. On a larger knife like this, you can carry it forward. It sits basically, the only thing that sticks up is the pocket clip. And the pocket clip is not too bad in hand. It's really in a good spot. It tapers down nicely and you've got a good grip on it. You can get all the way up on this knife and it does, I'm going to tell you, it cuts really well. It does. You've got a lot of flat on this blade and then just a little bit of belly at the front. And on a larger knife, that gets you a lot. It's like having kind of the best of both worlds. You've got what you would want in a Wharncliffe to do like some of those push cut things that you're going to do that a Wharncliffe really lends itself to. And then if you need to get around something, you can get choke way up on the blade and then cut around something. Like if you were trimming fat off of something or skinning small game, it would work. It's this clip point and drop point blades are really, really versatile in that fashion. The axis lock has not got too much, I'm sorry, the crossbar lock, the axis style lock has not got too much tension on the springs. So you don't really feel like it's too tight. It definitely is tighter and stiffer than say the Benchmade 940. And that could just be that the springs in this are brand new. There's no stick to it when you disengage the lock, and it does lock in nice and deep. This is very, very secure. Very, very secure on this. And there's no chance that lock is going to fail. You can see it's in there really far. And then you can choke way up on this and get up on this, and it just does really well. So now, with that being said, there's a lot of stuff about this knife that I'm not a fan of. I talked about it once before. So we're going to flip this around, and we're going to do flip side of the knife, flip side of the story, talk about the stuff I'm not a fan of. So let's just go ahead and crack into it. First things first, the way the pocket clip is done, like I said, it's a very nice pocket clip. It's a very comfortable pocket clip in hand. I hate surface mounted pocket clips. It's really becoming one of those things that just is off-putting for a couple of reasons. One, if your screws even get a little bit loose, this pocket clip's going to walk back and forth. You're going to have it, and you can actually slide this pocket clip a little bit. It's not as bad. It's screwed in nice and tight. And with it being reversible, you can see here, it's just surface mounted. It just sits on top of the G10. That would have been much better. That would have been much better if they had just milled out a slot on it. Knife that I filmed yesterday has that. You see here, this Bastide Raccoon. This is what I'm talking about. That's all it takes right there. And then just put a piece in there, a plate to cover it. That's really just become one of the other things. And the other reason I don't like them, if you're wearing thicker pants, that lip will hit pants. It's an obstruction trying to get it in your pocket. And so when I did wear this, I carried this in a pair of 511s at work, the reinforced pocket, it would just hit that. And then you had to fight with it to get it in. Next thing, it's off center. It's off center. And it appears that it's ground off center as well. Can you see down the blade, how it just looks like the blade is ground more pronounced from one side to the other? Can you see what I'm talking about? That's just kind of an issue that does really bother me. Next thing, these are really sharp, really, really sharp. And I mean, not just like just jokingly saying that they're kind of sharp, like they are sharp to the point where it's almost uncomfortable to mess around with the axis lock on this. Next thing, that aperture, you can reverse flick off of it, but you got to be in the perfect position so that you don't hit the lock. It's not big enough. There's not enough access to this. This should have been cut down a little further to give you a more pronounced finger choil area here. This could have been cut down a little bit, and this could have been a little bit bigger, and that would have definitely alleviated some of those problems. The G10 is super, super aggressive. That's not so much problem. You know, you could, oops, sorry, I slammed into the camera. You could always sand underneath the spot here so it doesn't do it, but it's going to tear up pockets. It really is. The next one really does bother me. It bothers me a lot. I've tightened the pivot on this several times. I Loctited it, and I'm still getting blade play. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what's at play. I'm going to try it like another time. I may give you guys an update later. I might put it in the edit and see if it solved the problem. But the pivot just keeps coming loose. I Loctited it with blue Loctite stick. I let it sit for 48 hours. It just keeps coming loose. So I don't know if maybe my Loctite is old or what. And then final thing, well, the final couple things. We're going to talk about something. They did a lot of weight reduction in this. And I said I like the fact it has kind of a neutral balance. But on a knife like this, it feels cheap. It is too light. which is out of character for me to say something like that, but this knife is just too light. They went too far with the weight reduction. And just like when you take the batteries out of something sometimes, and you're like, wow, this piece of crap without the batteries in it, it's just cheap plastic. It's not that this is not a good design. It's not, I'm not saying that it's cheap or poorly constructed, but it feels that way. The weight would give it a little bit more substance to it. And then the final thing, and I've said this about a bunch of CJRB knives, if you're not going to do aggressive jimping that works, don't do it. Just don't do the jimping. I don't like the way jimping looks. It's not aesthetically pleasing. And for it not to be functional, it just irritates the absolute shit out of me that jimping is just not, it doesn't serve a purpose at all. So for me, would I have bought this knife? Nah, I wouldn't. Is it a good knife? I like the blade. I believe that a different configuration of this knife would be better suited. A button lock of this would be great. A liner lock of this would be great. I just think that for me personally, even though, yeah, I know I like the idea of an ambidextrous lock system and stuff like that and reversible pocket clips, I find so many things about this something that I would not have spent my own money for. I do appreciate the fact it came. And like I said, it's not a bad knife and it's a very, very good cutter. But for me, it's just not, it's something that if I had spent my money, I think I would have been disappointed. So with that being said, guys, let's turn this around. We'll do some final thoughts and I'll send you out about your day.
So there you go, guys. It grew on me a little bit, and I love the blade shape. I love the overall design, like I said. It's got some problems. It's just got some problems that I think could have easily been alleviated, and it's the first Laconico design that I'm just kind of not a big fan of. So with that being said, guys, you heard me say it. A like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, hit the bell icon. Best things you can do for a channel. I am self-sponsored. All the links down below. Support this channel directly. It doesn't cost you anything extra at checkout. There's affiliate links for most of the major knife vendors. There's a couple links down there that have discounts built into them. Coffee Brand Coffee, Temper Trail, best coffee you're ever going to get. And if you're doing stuff outdoors, like I just came back from my trip up the mountain, as you guys will see in a future video, you might want some really good laces for your shoes so you don't have to like cobble together stuff on your way up the mountain. There's discount codes for Fair and Forge Knife Works, Coffee Brand Coffee, and Temper Trail. It's crazysharp, all one word, saves you 10% at checkout there. And I've got a membership and a public Discord. Check those out. There's different levels of benefits for the memberships. Guys, that's it on this one. I love y'all. Keep it clean in the comments section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. And I'll see you in the next video.